we're getting to the NBA Finals as the Knicks swept their way through the Eastern Conference, and they made it look easy, sweeping the Cavs right after sweeping the Sixers. And that's after they beat Atlanta in 6 games, when those last 3 games were not close at all. And now we see OKC, the reigning champions, getting knocked out by the Spurs in 7 games. All of us, I think I can say, were hate watching, and I was very, very happy by the outcome of Saturday's game. And so now we see the 2-time back-to-back MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, saying that this season was a failure. And we saw the just boisterous reaction of Victor Wembanyama when he realized that they officially were going to the NBA Finals. And so credit to him for that. And I'm happy for Wemby. Kevin even said to me in the group chat, "Oh, so you're a Wemby guy now." I've been a fan of Wemby since the Olympics. I haven't been super vocal about it because I'm wearing a De'Aaron Fox t-shirt right now. Like, I'm still kind of bitter that De'Aaron Fox is in San Antonio, but I'm happy for Fox. It just sucks as a Sacramento Kings fan. But ultimately, we have the Spurs and the Knicks playing in the finals. The Knicks are in the finals for the first time since 1999. Excuse me. And the last time that they played in 1999, they played the Spurs. So, Toddy, just what's your reaction when it comes to this matchup?
Well, I think just going back to the regular season, whenever OKC and the San Antonio matched up, a lot of people would always say it's a preview of what the Western Conference Finals is going to look like. I don't think really anyone took that with a grain of salt. Just how comfortable that San Antonio looked against OKC during a regular season. You're like, okay, this could be something that can possibly translate into a playoff setting. So when they were able to go and Wemby had that game, that historic game 1 that he had, and I think it was like only Wilt. it was like Wilt Chamberlain. I think Shaq was in there, and I'm blanking on the last name. It could have been Oscar Robinson. Kevin maybe could look that up. But just the display that he put on was like, oh, this guy is here now and is ready for whatever that comes to him. And so I think just as the series kind of progressed, you saw that OKC was able to kind of rein it in a little bit. Shai was going to be Shai. We all knew that. He's obviously a 2-time MVP. And he was going to display that he wasn't going to go down without a fight. And I think a lot of, with any team that wins a championship, luck plays a factor into it. By luck, I mean injury. Nobody's 100% at this point in the season. Just going back to last year, Tyrese Halliburton ends up tearing his Achilles in Game 7 of the NBA Finals in the first quarter. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that might have pushed him over the reasons, but it definitely helped. J-Dub was pretty much absent the majority of this series. AJ Mitchell did not play the majority of this series. Chet Holmgren I get it. Everyone wants to shit on Chet Holmgren pretty much the entire, all offseason. Chet Holmgren is just going to go through this, that, and the third. He's going to be mentioned in trade talks, going to be mentioned. He was an all-NBA player this year. Still, like I think this Chet's 3rd year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
3rd year. So, I mean, in his first 3 years, he's been to the finals and the conference finals. Like, he still has a lot more to develop into as a player. But at the same time, they did give you an extension for $200 and something million, and his contract is just going to keep getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And the performance that he put up in the conference finals does not reflect his contract. So right now, I think I saw something about the second apron hasn't hit for them. I think the second apron will start to hit them starting next season. And that's when you start to see guys. You saw guys like Kason Wallace at the podium, like, hey, like, what are you worried about in the offseason? Your new contract. His response was, I'm worried about getting better. AE, I need to get paid immediately, or I'm out of here.
I will say, just playing devil's advocate, I thought that was very mature. The fact that he kind of deflected and he was like, I'm just focused on getting better and not necessarily saying so directly, I need to get paid.
Yeah. So I just think nothing lasts forever. When you have guys like Sam Presti who's able to build teams like this time in and time again and just produce these draft picks. They have like 13 picks within the next 5 or 6 drafts, if I'm not mistaken. And they have guys that haven't even played for them yet. They were first round picks. So I feel like if it's anybody that's going to be able to figure out, it's Sam Presti. On the Spurs side of it, I just think right now, currently they're favored to win. I think they're minus 205 to win the series. I do think the Spurs have so much arsenal, like they have so much versatility. You have guys like who pick up full court, like Stephon Castle. You have guys like Devin Vassell who can create his own shot. Dylan Harper, literally, if De'Aaron Fox did not exist on this team, he would be averaging like 25. I can promise you that.
For sure.
His minutes are so limited, but you can just see in the spurts that he's playing, the shots that he's able to create. This is not any regular type of rookie. Like he was a number 2 overall pick, and he's on this super stacked San Antonio team. I promise you, if Dylan Harper was able to get the minutes of a starting point guard in this league, Dylan Harper could probably be like eventually like an all NBA type of player. That's how talented that he is.
For sure.
But I do think that the maturity that De'Aaron Fox does bring, because he does have some type of playoff experience, the limited playoff experience.
7 games, yeah.
But
till now.
He had a 40-point game.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Game 1.
I think that he brings a level of maturity to this team that is needed. Luke Cornett in Game 7, like the 4 minutes that he played, the 4 minutes that Luke Cornett played in Game 7 were so pivotal.
Blocked by Cornett.
Kids are now going to say blocked by Cornett nowadays, and that's just
blocked by James. We forgot about that.
Yeah, blocked by James is blocked by Cornett.
I'm just trying to trigger Kevin at this point.
Yeah, I think how well-oiled a machine this team is. Especially because De'Aaron Fox wasn't as healthy as he can be, but I feel like with this, these next couple of days will be pivotal to what he can bring to this team. I think when he is healthy, he can be very much effective and essentially almost unguardable because he can get around pretty much anybody that's thrown his way because he's just so damn fast.
Yeah.
You got to give credit to Mitch Johnson, him coming in for Greg Popovich last year after Greg Popovich had his situation. And we all kind of assumed Greg Popovich would come back, and Kevin was always one of those guys that was saying, hey, he's like 60 plus years old and he just had this is very serious. He ain't coming back.
He had a stroke.
And we were all like, hey, I think Pop can still kind of, he's this, that, and third. It's Wemby. Kevin was trying to tell it, screaming to that cloud, screaming to the whole entire world. This is not going to happen. Mitch Johnson's going to be the guy. I think he's the best guy for the job.
Hashtag Kevin was right.
Yeah. One of the few times Kevin was right on this podcast. But I think this Spurs team is just so, like, they have so much they can pull out of their bag. Like, they have Vassell. They have De'Aaron Fox, Wemby, obviously. You have Keldon Johnson. Carter Bryant, when he's able to get certain spurts of minutes, he's able to bring that ball of energy and just guard your best player for a solid 6 minutes a quarter. That matters.
For sure.
So you'll be seeing a lot of people be guarding Jalen Brunson. I know we'll get to the Knicks later, but this Spurs team, man, I think if we're picking who's going to win, we'll probably get into that, but I think the Spurs end up coming out on top probably in like 6 games.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna get to that in a little bit after we hear from Kevin and I mention a couple things. But Toddy, just to follow up on what you were saying, I'm really glad that you mentioned the veteran leadership of De'Aaron Fox, and shout out to De'Aaron Fox for his performance in Game 7 because he had 15 points in Game 7, but he hit 3 3-pointers in that game after he had 2 3-pointers throughout the entire series up until Game 7. And granted, De'Aaron Fox, he did miss Game 1 and 2 of the Western Conference Finals, but as Toddy said, it was in timely situations when they needed it most. De'Aaron was a big part of that early surge that OKC had to begin Game 7, or excuse me, that San Antonio had to begin Game 7 in OKC, quiet down that crowd. And so shout out to De'Aaron Fox, not only for coming to play when it mattered the most, but also that veteran leadership that he's instilling in guys like a Stephon Castle, who Fox said when he was getting out of Sacramento, he said, I need to play with Steph He didn't want Stephon Castle to get traded to Sacramento because he wanted to play alongside him. And then you add on Dylan Harper. Oh, my gosh. And as well as Harrison Barnes. Shout out to Harrison Barnes as well, because Harrison Barnes has so much veteran leadership. He has NBA Finals experience. And so I think that that's an added element to this team. And regarding the veteran leadership, Vince Carter was talking to De'Aaron Fox after that Game 7 win on the NBC Showtime set alongside Tracy McGrady, Mello, Maria Taylor. And Vince was just talking about how De'Aaron was his rook. And like initially, De'Aaron thought that Vince didn't like him just because Vince was giving him that tough love and he was trying to build him into the leader that he is today. And Vince was just talking about how proud he was of the leader that De'Aaron is today. And even though he may not be the star of this team like he was in Sacramento, he's playing a pivotal piece. And so, Kevin, what was your reaction to the conference finals and how they ended, but also previewing the NBA finals?
Like Toddy said, I think the Chet noise is going to be real. To go from averaging 20, 10, 2 blocks and 2 steals to 10 and 4, it's disappointing, especially when, like Toddy said, they have a gauntlet of picks. And there's a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo who is going to be on the trade market. We'll see if the Bucks actually pull the trigger. We've seen countless of times where he's on the market, then he's not. Then he's on the market, then he's not. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But like Toddy said, I think if J-Dub plays, I think this is a lot different of a series. But, you know, everyone knew Wemby was going to go for one of those games, and in game 1 he did. So for him to have that kind of impact and kind of still have a really huge impact, but not statistically, Isaiah Hartenstein really found a way to just get physical with him. And then talk about the Knicks getting real quick with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I really wish there was a world where Jason Tatum could have played. And I know as Toddy being a Celtic fan, you know, him coming off that Achilles, like you really don't want to risk it. But I would have rather seen the Celtics or the Pistons playing in the conference finals because they would have won at least 1 or 2 games. It would have been more competitive. I think the Knicks did get an easy route here. I know game 1, the Hawks were up big and they came back. And then same with the Cavs up big game 1 and they were to come back. So the Knicks just have the experience. Now foreshadowing into the finals, I'm going to let it be known that I'm going for the Knicks. I have nothing but hate in my heart for De'Aaron Fox. And I get it. You know, Mike Brown was also on our staff, but Mike Brown was fired. De'Aaron Fox wasn't fired. Shaun mentioned it. He stole it from my notes. He said, you cannot get Stephon Castle because I want to play with him. And if he was Steph Curry and, you know, gave us a couple rings, MVPs, then by all means, sir, where do you want to go? Who do you want to play with? What the fuck did De'Aaron Fox bring us? Nothing. We should have sold his ass to the highest bidder because we gave them a dynasty. And I get it. If the Spurs would have known they were the number 2 pick, it being Dylan Harper, I don't think they make that trade. But I just feel the keen bias in my heart, I would much rather see Mike Brown win than De'Aaron Fox. Harrison Barnes, I can give 2 shits about. De'Aaron Fox has cursed us, and we have been shit since, and I don't know if we'll ever be shit again. But if we would have just told him, you know what, we're doing what's best for us. Thank you for your service. You're now a Charlotte Hornet and LaMelo Ball, or you're now a Atlanta Hawk. Like, we could have gone any which way. But that's neither here nor there. But foreshadowing, I know we're going to give picks later, but I am taking the Knicks. Out of pure hatred.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of torn when it comes to the upcoming series. But before we get to our predictions for the NBA Finals, there were a couple other things that I wanted to highlight just from the conference finals. And so something that's super crazy that I didn't even realize is that Rashard Lewis is on the Spurs coaching staff. And I'm not going to read the whole part of it that led to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander becoming a member of the Spurs, or excuse me, of the Thunder. But ultimately, Rashard Lewis, he was ultimately the catalyst that led to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander becoming a member of the Thunder. And if you don't know about just how that all came together, look it up because it's pretty crazy. But it basically started with Rashard Lewis being traded from the Sonics, and it became a 2009 second-round pick with a trade exception, Serge Ibaka to Victor Oladipo and Sabonis, which turned into Paul George, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And so
like the butterfly effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was so crazy that Rashard Lewis is now on that Spurs coaching staff, considering that he was part of the coaching staff that took out Shai with the OKC Thunder. And also, I wanted to shout out Dylan Harper, because I don't know if you guys saw this, in addition to everything he did individually, but there were a couple of really hard fouls that Alex Caruso gave Stephon Castle throughout this series, including in Game 7. And Stephon Castle, when a hard foul happened in San Antonio, Stephon Castle stood up and he's like talking to Caruso. He's like, what the fuck was that? Like, that's not basketball, yada, yada, yada. But then it happened again in Game 7. And in Game 7, Dylan Harper went up and ran and basically tackled Stephon Castle to keep him from getting up and coming after Alex Caruso, saving him from potentially getting ejected from that game and then maybe even suspended from the NBA Finals. Also, Chet Holmgren.
Oh, boy.
In this series, Chet Holmgren scored 75 points. Julian Champagnie, a guy who the Sixers cut so Mac McClung could put on their jersey in the dunk contest. Julian Champagnie had 83 points in this series. Chet Holmgren had 75. Toddy, isn't that crazy?
I think Champagnie had like 27. Did he have like 27 in Game 7, if I'm not mistaken? He balled out. He hit a lot of very timely threes in Game 7. I will say that. He was the catalyst for their 3-point shooting on the road in Game 7. I mean, goodness gracious. It just looks really bad for Chet, because he's about to be making like $40 million. And it's like, hey man, we paid you all this bread. Let's get some return on our investment. And it's like, J-Dub obviously does not play for the majority of the series because he came back from a lingering hamstring injury. So it's like, you got to rely on your stars. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did pretty much any and everything possible to win this game. He had 35, I think almost 9 assists. So I don't really know what more you could have done. They were a little bit thin at as far as depth goes.
Exactly. And this Western Conference Finals, it went to 7 games and was even tied 1-1 for the first time since 2018, when the Warriors and Rockets did it, which is pretty cool. And I knew going into this game, even though going into this game, the Thunder were 7-0 in these playoffs following a loss. But also coming into this game is that NBA players who played in a Game 7 on their birthday were also 7-0. Harrison Barnes, who turned 34 on Saturday, he made it 8-0. So the Harrison Barnes stat prevails. And then finally, Toddy mentioned Mitch Johnson took over for Greg Popovich. He's going to the NBA Finals. He and Mike Brown will be the 4th pair of black head coaches to go against each other in the finals. And shout out to Law Murray of The Athletic, who pointed this out. You look at 1975, you had Al Attles versus Casey Jones. 2017, you had Mike Brown as an assistant, so it's a sort of thing, but versus Tyronn Lue. And then in 2024, you had Joe Mazzulla versus Jason Kidd. And yes, Jason Kidd is mixed. and so shout out to Mitch Johnson for getting them there. And also the crazy thing is that Mitch Johnson grew up in Seattle as a Sonics fan, and he gets to knock out the Thunder, who are the franchise that his favorite team once was. And so I think that's pretty cool as well. As we continue things here on episode 191 of Stats Over Politics, Shaun Holko alongside Jaevon, Toddy, and Kevin Dent. We got some comments real quickly from Mixed Martial Artist on YouTube, who said, I love playing with Rashard Lewis in 2K12, as well as Dylan Harper slipped. He didn't dive on him. I think he was just sprinting after him, and yeah, he might have slipped, but the goal was to keep Stephon Castle from coming after him. And Mixed Martial Artist also says Chet is a way better defender than Champagnie, though. Yeah, that's fair, but ultimately whose team advanced because Chet couldn't get a bucket. And Chet also was 1 of 2 from the field. You can't have your second or third best player, or whatever you want to label him as, shooting 2 shots in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals. And finally, from Mixed Martial Artists, they also say Chet is worth $40 million per year. He was second in Defensive Player of the Year voting this year and was an All-Star and is only 24. That's fair. I'll give you that, but you got to show up in Game 7, in my opinion. And so now we're going to go around the table, starting off with Toddy, then we'll get to Kevin and myself. Toddy, who do you got in the NBA Finals and how many games, and who is your Finals MVP?
Before you go, Toddy, since we're tallying points, quick math, Jared McCain scored 81 points, and then he only started 2 games. Quick math.
Good quick middle math there from Kevin Dent.
Hell yeah.
So I'm going to take the San Antonio Spurs to win it. I'm going to say they win in 6 games. I think San Antonio is a little bit more, they're younger, obviously, and I do think they're a little bit more versatile than the Knicks. I think the Knicks get a little bit Jalen Brunson reliant, albeit they have been beating the shit out of everybody they've been playing. So maybe that really hasn't mattered as much. But I've seen in instances when it kind of gets tough, it's like, Jalen Brunson, please save us. So I'm going to take the Knicks in 6. I'm going to take Victor Wembanyama to win Finals MVP. I'll say the averages. Oh, go ahead.
Spurs in 6 with Victor as MVP.
Spurs in 6, Victor MVP. I'll say shit. I'll give you a stat line. Wemby averages like 30 and 15 and 4 blocks.
I love it. Kevin, who do you got and why?
Well, Shaun, I think you should go next, so we can get both of the Spurs perspectives, because I already said who I was going for, and I know who you're going for, because as soon as the confetti drops, Shaun's dropping all these pictures of Wemby. Man, out of 191 episodes, besides the Olympics, haven't heard the name Wembanyama come out of Shaun's mouth.
That's fair. And like I mentioned earlier, it's because I'm a bitter Sacramento Kings fan who was just sad. Like, I'm happy as a De'Aaron Fox fan, which I clearly am. I'm happy for De'Aaron. He deserves it. He deserves to win. He's going to the NBA Finals. So happy for him. I mean, there was the graphic that CBS Sports put out, the fact that De'Aaron is in the finals this year, going against Mike Brown, the Kings' former head coach. And then you go to 2025, Tyrese Halliburton, former Kings point guard, in the finals. Go back to 2024, Luka Doncic, guy who the Sacramento Kings should have drafted. He's in the NBA Finals. Oh, and then you go back to 2023, Mike Malone, another former Kings head coach. He is in the NBA Finals.
A lot of talent in Sac.
Yeah, a lot of talent in Sac that they I guess they're not good enough for Sacramento, but they're good enough.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly. Unfortunately. And so, yeah, but like I said, as a De'Aaron Fox fan, like, I'm genuinely so happy for him. But as a Sacramento Kings fan, I hear where you're coming from, Kevin. I'm just a De'Aaron Fox fan, period. I put that aside, how it relates to the Sacramento Kings. But yeah. But Kevin, since you wanted me to go next, I will just mention, even though I'm wearing the De'Aaron Fox Sacramento Kings t-shirt, we think Mike Brown. I got to be there as a media member when Mike Brown was introduced as the Sacramento Kings head coach. I was working for the Messenger Publishing Group, which was my first professional journalism job. And I got to be there, and it was pretty awesome. Something I'll remember forever, even after he got fired. And so that was really cool. So I've loved Mike Brown. Should have never been fired. And then you also think back to December 2021. I'm walking down the streets of downtown Sacramento by the Golden One Center, and I'm like, hold on, that guy's wearing a mask. Like, but is that Jalen Brunson? And this is before Jalen Brunson really became Jalen Brunson.
Before the cloud, guys.
Before the cloud. This is when Jalen Brunson was a rotational player on the Dallas Mavericks. But I knew who he was. I watched him win 2 championships at Villanova. And so then I jogged up to him. He was with his lady, and I was just like, "Excuse me, sir, are you Jalen Brunson?" As he's obviously wearing the COVID mask during the restrictions. He's like, "Yes, I am." And I was like, "Do you mind if I get a quick selfie?" He's like, "Yeah, of course." And so there I am with as I joke on the podcast all the time, there I am with my close personal friend, Jalen Brunson. And so love Mike Brown, close personal friend, Jalen Brunson. Kevin, you're just assuming that I'm picking the San Antonio Spurs. And you're correct. I am going to pick the San Antonio Spurs in 7 games. I also think that if the Spurs are going to win a championship, like, I would love to pick De'Aaron Fox as the finals MVP. If Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle were not on this team, then I may stray away and just get wild, say De'Aaron Fox is going to be your finals MVP. I think the guard room is just too crowded for De'Aaron to be able to put up the stats that it would take. So I'm also going with Victor as my finals MVP. He's going to bring it home to France, and the Spurs are going to do it in 7 games. And also just the parallels between Tim Duncan at like 22 years old in 1999 in his first NBA finals, and now Victor Wembanyama. I'm going to save the time and not go down the rabbit hole of just talking about all the different similarities, but it's crazy. Spurs in 7, Victor is the MVP. Kevin, tell us why we're wrong.
This team, Toddy, if there was a world where they were playing the Boston Celtics, would you take the Celtics?
If the Spurs were playing
the Celtics, yes.
I mean, I'd be 50-50.
Okay. This New York Knicks team was built and constructed to beat them.
Yeah.
They have the wing defenders. They have the depth, and they have the big men. Jalen Brunson is going to stamp that he is the best New York Knick ever. They are going to win in 6 games. New York Knicks in 6. And Marcus, if you're still watching, I want my $10 back. I'm coming back, and I want it in blood. New York Knicks in 6. And the finals MVP is Jalen Brunson. Not only will I get $10 from Marcus, but Wes will have to watch his former number 1 pick in Karl Anthony Towns win a ring. I am going for the New York Knicks, and I told you guys, De'Aaron Fox, you left us in misery. Mike Brown got fired. We didn't fire De'Aaron Fox. So with that being said, New York Knicks in 6, Shaun's personal guy, Jalen Brunson, finals MVP, and we in our lifetime can say the Knicks won a championship before the Cowboys.
Oh no!
Oh man, that's a good little sprinkle in there at the end. And Kevin, I just have to push back just a little bit because I've heard you mention it like 3 times now. Mike Brown was fired. De'Aaron Fox wanted out, so on and so forth. De'Aaron told management after Mike Brown was like his 5th head coach in 7 years. He told management, I love Mike Brown. I want Mike Brown to stay here. If you do not extend Mike Brown, then I'm not going to sign an extension myself. So then the Kings give him a contract extension. 6 months later, they fire him. And so they gave him the contract extension because De'Aaron said at the time, if Mike Brown is not my head coach anymore, then I don't want to be here anymore. And so he let them know. He forced their hand. They gave Mike Brown a contract extension only to fire him 6 months later when the Kings started like 13-18. 13-18, Kevin. We would kill to be 13-18 through 31 games at this point, based on what we just saw this past season when they won like 24 games. So De'Aaron let them know. And ultimately, they didn't care. They fired Mike Brown. We see where Mike Brown is now. Maybe De'Aaron was on to something.
No, Shaun. There's a world where Dylan Harper or Stephon Castle's in a Sacramento Kings jersey. We have 2 of those unprotected Atlanta picks. But no, Mr. You've done nothing for us. Where do you want to go? Where would you like to be traded? You've done so much for this franchise. We should trade you to your. Oh, you want Castle? Okay, let's call Chicago and let's get Zach LaVine instead. Hell no. Knicks in 6, baby.
Yeah, and I will own it that when the Kings made that trade, I tried to be optimistic, and I was the one on this podcast who was like, "It's gonna be okay." It has not been okay. It's
just like with DeMar DeRozan, you were screaming from the clouds.
Hey man, I stand by that. That's the biggest signing in Kings franchise.
That doesn't mean it's good.
You didn't say it was good.
Well, yeah, it has stunted the growth of Keegan Murray, who is arguably our best player at this point if we're discounting Domantas Sabonis. And so, yeah. Hindsight is 2020. Yeah, Toddy, it is a cold world.
I think it's just you guys kind of just got to take it with a grain of salt that you guys actually know. The scouting department might know a thing or 2 about talent. That's one way to look at it. You guys might know a thing or 2 about roster constraint, and maybe I think it's just your guys' owner gets in your own way. That's
Oh, he does all the time.
the entire.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
I'm sorry.
Man.